Isle of Swaps is a fantastic roguelike deck builder game that takes me back to my childhood of the late 80s and early 90s when trading card games were all of the rage. You'd have Top Trumps, Garbage Power Kids, and the same principle I guess applies to marbles as well, because when you go into battle with a mate on the playground, whoever won got to either take or swap out the winning like shiny marble or a specific card if it was powerful, and you would then dump off some of your duplicates that you'd got over the course of time. And all of this is exactly what Isle of Swaps offers, with a fantastic and tactical game that has had me hooked for many an hour already, even though I'm not particularly great at it. In Isle of Swaps, you choose from one of 4 characters, and the idea is to conquer 3 acts of going around the playground, beating up all of your friends and taking the cards so that you have the best decks available. You do this by initially choosing your starter character, which has a particular trait that might be very helpful when it comes to battles, and then choosing a starter monster card to take onto the battlefield. These monster cards come with one of 6 different energy traits, and they're elemental, like lightning, fire, nature, water, magic, and some of the characters will have 2 elements attached to them, but there'll always be a primary and a secondary. The crucial thing around this is that some energies are more powerful against other energies than some of the others. So like water and lightning obviously don't like each other, and so if you then attack with a water against a lightning, then it will do more damage, for example, whereas others have resistance and they can really null an attack down to barely making any damage whatsoever. Each card comes with an attack stat and a defense stat that will absorb some of the damage before anything really gets to you. And you need to take that into account too. And almost every single card will also have its own unique skill applied to it as well. So the monsters will say things like, you'll gain some HP every turn, or it might be that you, if you've got a lightning one, will gain some charge or a dodge attack. And the beauty of all these 6 different elements is that they do carry through unique stats underneath. So for example, the nature attacks are actually more curative than attacking, but they're the only ones that can cure. Whereas the fire ones will leave burning damage that will keep going over time. Lightning attacks can stun enemies, whereas the magic abilities can put in status effects. And the earth ones are all about taunting each other. So you can become a shield and be the one that attacks first, or it could be that you mark other characters and everyone will attack them instead. Because when you get into the battlefield, you'll notice that there are 3 slots on either side of the screen. The left-hand side is you, the right-hand side is your opponent. And you can only attack the opponent that is directly opposite you. So top versus top, middle versus middle, bottom versus bottom. You can shift around your monsters that will then reset where they attack for the next round over. And those 6 slots can also be weaponized as well, or charged for good things. So you can add that one spot constantly recures something, or is immune to a status attack. Or it could be that you lay a spike trap on the other side and that gives you damage over time, or it poisons people, or it adds on an electrical charge that then can sap people's energy over time as well, and their HP. And of course, whoever's standing left at the end wins the battle. You can have 1, 2 or 3 cards in play, and the start of the game will start off with your enemies only having 1, and then 2, and then 3. But I do recommend trying to put as many monsters in as possible, but that does mean that as you get random generatedly your hand from the cards that you pick up into your deck to go into battle, it's well worth considering whether you want to have an overlap of a couple of the same elements, or whether you want to go totally varied, because it will sometimes mean that you get stuck not being able to make the most optimum decision if you spread yourself too thinly. How this plays out in reality is that you're in a constant tug of war between whether you should be generating energy, which often comes with some buffs for yourself or some debuffs for your opponents, or you should be lining up some spending energy attacks that can really harm their HP. And to help you make better decisions, there's another element to this game called stickers. Stickers are things that you can buy whenever you get to shops, or you can sometimes swap them out from the opponents that you've beat. And these are passive abilities that you can have running in the background. And this helps you set up your energy for whatever it is that you're looking to lean in onto, but it also gives you kind of rechargeable passive abilities in the background that can help you have to forget about some of the game that's going on. So, for example, you can have it so that every 3 or 5 rounds you generate some new health. Or one of the ones that I found very helpful was to generate some types of energy at the beginning of the game so that I didn't have to spend the first 1 or 2 rounds generating the energy so that I could then make big beefy attacks. I could go straight in. Or it could be that every couple of rounds I build up some defences, for example. There's loads of stickers, and actually this is a whole little mini roguelike area of the game itself, because the bigger and beefier the monsters are that you take into battle, the less stickers you can add to your deck. And so you really have to consider, like, bringing in something beefy, is it the right thing to do? Because it then might mean that some of your passive abilities that have kept you afloat so far won't be available, and therefore your overarching balance of your deck might not be working so well. And so I spent ages going through my deck, really trying to fine-tune various different things and working out actually per battle which things I should take in. And that's because as you go through that overworld map, you get to see the elements of what you're going to be battling next. You might not know exactly what it is that you're going in for, but you can reassess what it is that you want to take into battle as you go along. Whenever you reach the end or conclusion of each run, whether that be successful or not, you then go into the mastering phase. And this gives you points to then master and put a little star next to the card it is that you've currently got. And it will give you a master this or that randomly from the cards that you've got currently in your binder by the time you get to the end of the run. And this means that they become slightly more powerful next time around. And so this is really where the meta progression of Isle of Swaps comes in, because slowly over time you'll have mastered versions of loads of cards that will then mean that they're ever so slightly stronger, which means that you can slowly turn the tide of having better things to balance out your deck with over time. However, you might not want to have an absolute master of everything all the time, because that then means that your stickers and the amount that you can have also reduces too. So you've really got to balance what it is that you want to do. In general though, I do find that mastered cards work better. Outside of the main game, which takes place over 3 acts of 8 battles each to see if you can make it to the end, there's also the Critter Championship mode, and this means that you can only use the mastered cards that you've got in your master binder. So, as you get too good, in theory, for the main game, a new tougher version of the game slowly becomes more viable as you've got more cards mastered to then take into the Critter Championship. I thought that was quite a cool way to deal with longevity of Isle of Swaps. You can also turn on a randomizer button, which means that actually all of the monsters and all of their elements and what they can and can't do is randomized, so you don't get to rely on the same tactic over and over again. There's also a mode that means that whenever you lose one of your monsters in battle, it's gone for the rest of that round. And so if you put all of your best eggs in a basket and you have a terrible run, it will mean that you're severely penalised for anything you're doing in the future. And I found that mode intensely difficult. I had great fun with Isle of Swaps though. I thoroughly recommend this to anyone that's a child of the 80s and 90s that experienced trading cards in their youth. But fundamentally in 2024, it's just a fantastic roguelike deck builder with a retro nostalgic setting. I really like the graphics. I found it just to be intensely playable and really tested my adaptability, because you have to swap out things constantly to make sure you're putting your best foot forward. And who doesn't like that in a game? Written review over on highplanegames.com. Take care. Higher Plane Games is part of the Higher Plane Network. a completely independent media outlet supported by people like you. The goal is to create the best possible content that cultivates a richer indie scene for games as well as music and entertainment. To find out more and to get involved, visit patreon.com/HigherPlaneNetwork. Your support makes all the difference, and in return you'll gain access to bonus content and downloads. Thank you for watching.